All right, let's hit the field.
All right.
Just wanted to talk, that's all.
In this episode, the Yankees beat report with Max Goodman. DJ LeMahieu is hurt and will probably miss opening day, meaning the Yankees are in search of a backup third baseman. Plus, the fifth starter competition is kicking into full gear, and Aaron Judge's return is imminent. All that and more. This is NYY Recaps.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Joining us tonight on location from Yankee Spring Training is Max Goodman, Yankees beat writer for NJ.com. Month in Florida. Tell me you brought your golf clubs at least.
Golf clubs are in the car. Tomorrow's an off day, so I'm going to try to hit the links a little bit. We were talking before live just now. Stumbled upon an ice cream shop, local joint tonight, so that was a blast. And I'm currently balancing my computer on the little, sort of Keurig, but not really, coffee machine in my hotel room. So definitely on location, but happy to be here.
Very nice. Very nice. I actually just had a late night coffee myself, but we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to get right to it. Obviously, the news today was DJ LeMahieu. He has an injury, a bone bruise. He's going to miss opening day, it sounds like. So is Peraza. He's out until at least May. What a golden opportunity he just missed. But that begs the question, who's going to play third base to start the season? The Yankees just sent down Yorbeat Vivas, who's probably their best infield prospect, closest to the major leagues, second baseman really, but they just sent him down. Are they going to have to drag Josh Donaldson out of retirement? I mean, what's this going to come to?
I think that it's been clear for a little bit of time now that the backup infielder was someone that isn't currently on the Yankees. And I think that you're going to see probably a Franchy Cordero type of situation where the Yankees are going to turn somebody else's trash into not necessarily their treasure, but something that they really need right now. And that's not necessarily a knock on Jahmai Jones, who doesn't have any options and is on the 40-man, so he could potentially get on there. Kevin Smith is a versatile defender, a non-roster invitee at camp. He hasn't really hit in his career. He had 3 hits yesterday in Fort Myers, almost hit a homer to dead center at Little Fenway at JetBlue Park. So he has a shot. He's just got to kind of take advantage of the fact that the door creaked open with Peraza's injury. But it really just comes down to, do the Yankees trust Oswaldo Cabrera to have everyday playing time right now? And his offense is the key, right? You want him to get everyday at-bats to continue to develop. The versatility on defense is going to be there no matter where he's playing. And that's important for them to have, especially if LeMahieu's down. You don't necessarily have a backup first baseman in addition to the third base being open, and you need someone who's going to play short as well if Volpe ends up coming out of a game or needs a day off because Peraza isn't there. So there are a lot of moving parts here. That's why Cabrera, I think, now will make the team. There was a point earlier in spring where I thought they'd send him to AAA to get those everyday at-bats. But you have to consider, are the options out there at the very end of this month going to be better than giving Cabrera a runway here to just really see what he has, and then maybe he can settle back into that really valuable late inning, versatile, playing all over the diamond. Maybe they'll even let him catch this year so we can check that off too. But I think we'll see him early on as of now, and we'll see what they add later on.
Yeah, if you do play him at third base, it means you're going to have to backfill the infield, I guess, rotational spot. That could be Jahmai Jones, I suppose. I don't know if he plays shortstop at all, but be interesting to see what happens. Did you catch Carlos Rodon's outing today? He was pretty good. 5 2/3 innings of no-hit ball.
I did. Yeah, we're always multitasking, so I can't say I was 110% locked in. But what I can say is he was a 2-pitch pitcher today. Leaned heavily on the fastball and the slider. I know that the cutter has been something that's been discussed so far this spring is another pitch that he's adding. He only threw it 3 times today. But when I asked him after he came out of his start if that's a pitch that he really trusts and he's going to use during the season, he said, yes, absolutely. That's just something that he wasn't working on today, but it's a pitch that he's going to use. I believe he said mostly to righties, so something that would then be coming in on their hands. But I think there was a pitching ninja clip of a cutter he threw today that was just biting away and got a swing and miss. And of course, this was a special moment too. having Torrey come out and Rodon was describing this. He was like, I had a couple pitches left that I was allotted and I wanted to face this hitter. And so I think he was kind of upset when he saw someone coming out of the dugout, but then he was like, oh, it's Joe Torre. I probably shouldn't say anything.
I got to find out what Joe Torre said to him on the mound. They're probably both kind of keeping it on the field or whatever. But Torre's seen so much, and his words are so impactful that he's one guy that I could see saying something to Rodon that just switches on the confidence that maybe he's been building towards this spring. That's 2 good outings in a row, so I'm feeling pretty good about Carlos Rodon right now. All right, let's talk about some other pitching because the Yankees do have kind of a battle here for the number 5 spot. Who's going to be Garrett Cole's replacement for basically the first 2 months of the season? Big opportunity to be had for whoever can reach out and take it. In my mind, there's 4 main candidates. There's LeMahieu, who we're seeing on the screen right now. Coming back from Tommy John, he looked absolutely filthy against the Blue Jays the other day. And the time before that, he had 8 strikeouts in 3 innings. And then you've got 3 guys without big league experience. Will Warren, who you'll see in just a second, also phenomenal stuff. Chase Hampton and Clayton Beeter, all legit prospects, all good, good live arms. How do you think this is going to shake out? And what have you seen, so far from these guys this spring? Like in your mind, who are you kind of pulling for? Even if you're not, I know journalists aren't supposed to pull for, but who do you think is showing you the most?
Well, I think we could have an entire show just about this because I do think it's an ongoing competition. I don't think anyone has won the job just yet. I'll start with Warren because he's on your screen. Yesterday in Fort Myers, it gave off a similar vibe to a late spring training day last year when Volpe had a big day against the Red Sox, and Boone was speaking about Volpe that day, and he was competing for the shortstop job in a similar way that he did to Warren yesterday, if that makes any sense. Just the way that he was talking about the talent, the maturity beyond his years, the way that Warren specifically handled the fact that he had a rocky, rough first inning. Defense didn't help him behind him, but he gave up a lot of hard contact. And then he was able to really settle in and ended up making it an outing to build on and continue to flash that elite stuff because he is going to be in the big leagues. It's just a matter of when. So I think I'm leaning toward predicting him as the number 5 just because of that in terms of recency bias. I know Luis Gil was tremendous in his last couple of outings, but I do think that him building up is a little more – it's something that the Yankees are going to want to take slowly. And as much as, he makes more sense roster-wise because he's on the 40 and he's been in the big leagues before, he's coming back from a major surgery. And I don't know if you want someone in a rotation where there are some injuries in the bullpen too. You don't want someone coming out there to begin the year only going 4 or 5 innings or whatever it is. You want someone that's going to be able to go deeper into games consistently, especially because it's not one turn through the rotation that Cole will be out. It's going to be a little bit of time, if not longer. So a couple guys that you didn't mention earlier, they gave some guaranteed money to Luke Weaver. I do think he's going to be on the team. I don't know if they can get out of that money, if it's maybe before opening day or something like that. I don't know the details of his contract. And then they brought in Cody Petit also, who I was talking to pitching coach Matt Blake the other day, and he likened Petit to a Johnny Brito type of pitcher, someone that could make a spot start, but will be really valuable in a multi-inning relief role as well. And I think that spot is open too. So you're not just picking one pitcher from this list and all the names that we've just dropped here. I think you're going to see a couple of them make the opening day roster. And the fact that you could put Cole on the 60-day, it doesn't make a difference that Warren isn't on the 40 just yet. I think that's the avenue to get him onto the roster. And Clayton Beeter did a great job too. I think that he could use a little more seasoning in AAA, and you'll probably see him this year in the big leagues as well. So it's a good problem to have, right? I mean, they've got a surplus of options here, and it seems like everyone's been doing a solid job in spring training too.
It's funny. People come at the Yankees because they say they don't develop their own starting pitching because they don't develop a lot of aces, a lot of front-end starting pitching. Even Phil Hughes was a top draft pick. Number one prospect in baseball for a time, but he never really became that guy. But one thing the Yankees do really well is develop a lot of like mid-level kind of guys that they can use for trades, like J.P. Sears and Ken Waldachuk and Johnny Brito, and you just wonder which of these guys is going to break through and which guy is going to be playing for whoever the Yankees trade him to at the deadline to get reinforcements. Let me ask you this, Luis Gil. If the Yankees are trying to control his innings, why not start him in the bullpen to begin the season? The Yankees could obviously use some help. They've lost Efros for a while. Tommy Kahnle's still not quite back. He could be a guy that maybe comes in non-high leverage situations, gives you an inning or two, and, basically has shutdown, strikeout stuff, can keep you in the game.
Now, the only challenge there is then you're not building him up more. So if you want him to be a starter this year, you probably should have him either in the 5 spot or in AAA. And the fact that he was already optioned to AAA doesn't matter necessarily. Don't think of that as them using an option already. That was asked to Boone the other day. And he said, they could bring him up and it wouldn't count as an extra transaction there. So, is it going to come down to their last couple of outings here in spring? Maybe. But I think that you've already really seen a lot to like about all of these guys. It's just going to come down to how the Yankees want to go about it. And, this could lead us into, some of the bullpen guys as well. And I know that's on the rundown there too. You mentioned Kahnle. He's not going to be out for a long time. So that spot is something that can be filled really easily. And then you get into who has the flexibility option-wise to make the team right away, but not necessarily stick for a long time. Whereas the rotation spot is, a month, maybe 2, and you don't want to rush Cole back. And maybe he's healthy, but that's the most indispensable player on any team in baseball. I think you could argue you want to make sure that he's healthy going into the summer and then down the stretch too. So here's a chance to give one of these young guys an opportunity, whether it's Gil or Warren. And like I said earlier, I think you're going to see a lot of these guys this year because I don't necessarily think that Rodon, Cortez, and Stroman are all going to have a full season without needing some time on the IL, maybe easing off a little bit. I think that would be asking too much to expect that everybody else is going to have a full season healthy, right? It just never works out like that.
Right. Nobody's ever healthy for an entire season, especially pitchers. All right, let's move on to the next competition that we've got going on, the catching competition, something I've been keeping a close eye on. Austin Wells. Look, the kid's been smashing the baseball this spring. No one can argue he's not hitting the ball very well. Jose Trevino, I think, is a lock to make the team, but without Garrett Cole making the opening day start, I'd say it's a toss-up, between, who's the opening day catcher between Trevino and Austin Wells. Rortvedt, obviously no options, so he could be somebody that gets moved. My money is, if I had to push my money on somebody getting traded, I think it's Ben Rortvedt, because a lot of teams need catching. And obviously, Yankees do have, Augustin Ramirez. They have Ben Rice. They got some minor league catching depth in emergencies. But Austin Wells, to me, has been looking really good. Trevino looks like he's in great shape. Just want to get your perspective, being around the team. Is there some debate right now as to who's that opening day catcher?
Oh, man. Well, what I'll start with is I was on the field the other day with Tanner Swanson, who's the Yankees director of catching, just kind of picking his brain on just the surplus of guys that they have. And you mentioned a couple of the prospects. There's even more than that. You bring in Luis Torrens as a non-roster guy, and he's always been a good hitter at the big league level, but maybe wasn't necessarily viewed as a solid defender. They brought him into the system, and now he's been a much better defender, even after only having him for a couple of months here. So now you run the risk of him leaving if he has an opt-out or if he wants to, test free agency, or if he doesn't make the team, doesn't want to go to AAA. That's just the good problem to have, but those are the repercussions too of having too many at a premium position. So I'm with you with Rortvedt. I think that he is expendable to a certain extent. Obviously, that goes away as soon as somebody gets hurt, and Trevino's been a little banged up dating back to last summer with the wrist injury and then the calf to start this year. But I think that it is close enough to a lock that you can use some Sharpie when you're penciling in your roster with Trevino and Wells. Wells just continues to impress. The offense has always been there. That was his calling card as a prospect, even when he was drafted, first-round pick out of Arizona. But the defense, he continues to impress, and he's getting better and better. I know that there are maybe some weaknesses in terms of the strength of his arm, but everybody that I talked to, all of the pitchers, even Rodon today, the growth that Wells has already had since Wells caught Rodon very early, if not his major league debut out in Houston, to now. And it's a completely different catcher. He's just grown so much, and the ceiling is even higher for him. So I think you'll see both of those guys on opening day. And maybe if there's an opportunity to get another bullpen arm, or the infielder that we were talking about earlier, the unnamed guy that you need to play third and maybe some depth, maybe that's a way to get him if you want to trade Rortvedt, who is an elite defender. And again, it's a premium position, right? There are other teams that need a backup, and Rortvedt can control the running game. He's got a little bit of upside offensively, just hasn't been able to hit consistently in the big league so far.
One thing I've noticed on TV from watching Wells, and you probably have a better perspective because you're actually there in person, he seems like he runs really well for a catcher. They hate it when we say that, but he runs well in general. It looks like you're so used to watching catchers run, and they run like O.J. Simpson when he was in his 40s, just kind of limping along. I think that he can pick him up and put him down better than most catchers.
He's actually a really sneaky good base runner. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, and if I'm not mistaken, he got thrown out trying to steal today. But he has been like 98% all the way back to college in terms of stealing bases. He doesn't do it a lot, but he's one of those guys that's really good at reading a pitcher, getting a good jump. And I think it helps being a catcher too, because he can sense when an off-speed pitch or something in the dirt is going to be coming.
Yeah, Paul O'Neill was good at that. I remember he was about 39 or 40 years old. His final season, he stole 20 bases. So, there is an art to that. And with the bigger bases and the pitch clock, maybe he can take advantage of it. All right, so two guys who changed their swing path and their body this winter. One got bigger, one got smaller. Anthony Volpe and Giancarlo Stanton. Volpe, I thought, looks like he's put on an absolute ton of muscle, maybe 10, 15 pounds of muscle this winter. Old guys will say, he looks like he's tightening up. He looks like he's tightening up to me. And then Giancarlo Stanton looks like he's loosening up. He's definitely lost some weight. He looks skinnier. How does he look, aside from the highlights where we see him raking, how does he look moving around? You see him in outfield drills, running the bases. I'm interested in if he's getting back to that baseball player that he wants to be.
Yeah, honestly, I do think he looks a lot leaner. And that was something that we were all kind of curious of how he was going to come back from the offseason, because I remember in Kansas City on that last day of the year last year, obviously the season had been over for them postseason wise for a long time, but he was very candid and accountable for how that season went. And I know Yankees fans aren't necessarily his biggest fan right now, or even in the last couple of years, but kudos to him for going out and making that change. But with a lot of guys on this team, he's got to go out there and now prove that he can turn that into results. And I think for a player like him this late in his career, don't really look too closely at what he's doing in Grapefruit League games. It's the fact that he's healthy. It's the fact that he's getting his timing down. And you're seeing some of the flashes of the vintage Giancarlo Stanton home runs, the line drives that just sizzle to the wall in right field too. And if he's able to do that consistently and stay in the lineup, I don't think we can really put into words how much that would mean to this team, because they haven't really had that since he came over, right? I mean, not consistently to what the expectation was. So if you're adding that right after Judge and Soto with Rizzo, who also you talk about coming off injuries, he seems to be great too. He's been hitting really well in spring training thus far. So Stanton could be huge for this team. I don't know if he's going to win comeback player of the year or anything like that, but he does look better from my vantage point, and physically looks to be fitting the part as well.
And Volpe, obviously he's hitting more line drives. We've seen him hit a number of gappers to right field. We got somebody saying he can go 30-30 this year. I actually think his home run total might go down despite the added muscle. Looking at his swing, it's a much more linear, line drive type of approach. Does it look like he's trying to do that more in batting practice, hitting line drives instead of hitting balls in the seats, things like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think you're seeing a conscious decision there to go back to the way it was in the minor leagues for him, where he did hit more for average and use all of the fields. And I don't think he's going to sell out to try to hit the ball over the fence as much as maybe he did at times last year. And you factor in the fact that he has a full year of experience against big league pitching under his belt now. That's going to help him and do dividends for him as he goes out there in tough spots in the bottom of the order. And if you're seeing him take the extra base, and he's very fast. He's a good base runner. So you have that in the 9 spot. I don't necessarily think, let's say LeMahieu's out for a while, I don't think they would move Volpe in to hit leadoff. I think that he can settle in and be a valuable piece for them at the bottom of the order, kind of like the second leadoff hitter for them. And yeah, if he's going to be spraying the ball all over the field, needs to improve against off-speed pitches. That was a big red flag for him last year. And just building on the confidence, catching fire, and being more of the vintage Volpe that we saw in the minors when he was the prospect that ended up winning a job in spring training. And you just didn't see that as much, that fire, that extra base mentality. And he was striking out so much. He's got to just put the ball in play. And I think he'll be better at that this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do, with the work that they've put in this winter. You want it to pay off, right? I mean, and Volpe, I feel like there's something to just being more comfortable. Second year in the league, he's seen a lot of these pitchers before. There's got to be a confidence level that comes with that, and just being, been there, done that. Last year, everything was new. Ooh, the plane flights across the country with all these major leaguers staying in the Ritz. Like, it's got to be overwhelming to a degree. And now it's like, okay, I've stayed in these hotels. I've ridden on these flights. I've hung out with Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge for a whole year. I'm used to it. Now I can just go out and play baseball. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. I think he really might win another Gold Glove, too. He's looked really good at shortstop this spring.
I'm with you. Yeah, again, I can't overstate how important these two players that we're talking about here are to the trajectory of this Yankees season. If Stan stays healthy, if Volpe takes a big stride forward as a starting shortstop for them, he's going to be out there basically every game, right? He almost played in all 162 last year, and the defense is good. The base running is elite. The contact, if it gets better, and he starts to be just a thorn in the sides of pitchers in the bottom of the order, that's going to make it even better for the top of the order too. And obviously LeMahieu is a big important piece there, but we'll see what happens there.
Speaking of the top of the order, though, who do you think fills in for LeMahieu at the leadoff spot? Because he was penciled in as your leadoff hitter. I mean, is that Torres, Verdugo? I mean, Dominguez maybe when he comes back, but he's still a couple months away too. I'm not seeing an obvious choice.
I wonder if it'll just come down to the matchups, right? Like, isn't Framber Valdez supposed to start for the Astros on opening day? So maybe we'll see labor there. Verdugo hasn't done too much offensively this spring, and that's, Boone was asked about that after the game in terms of how he's been fitting, and he had nothing but good things to say about Verdugo off the field. And I know there were some character concerns when he came over from the Red Sox, but again, you can only really analyze Grapefruit League stats so much. I mean, these guys are working on different things. They've got a lot going on, a lot of workouts during the day. These aren't life or death at bats, and we'll talk about that with Judge too. He's not rushing back just to take these extra ABs. The stats don't matter at all. So I do think that Verdugo will get some leadoff reps because he can hit for contact, and he can go gap to gap and also run into a homer every once in a while too. And he's got some speed. We've seen that quickness in left field as well this spring.
All right, the next guy we got to talk about is Nick Burdi. So you wrote a great story about this kid. And I say kid, he's, I believe, 31 years old now. He's bounced around a little bit. He's had some injury history. I just wanted to kind of let you tell the story of what you wrote about him. And, we can obviously see the stuff on the screen, 98, 99 miles an hour with command. So what's been the deal? Why are we just hearing about this guy now at 31?
He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, a thoracic outlet surgery as well, or syndrome. I'm messing that up. I got down to Tampa on March 1st. So I wasn't even there at the very beginning of camp when he kind of burst onto the scenes. I mean, you knew that he was going to be there as a non-roster invitee, but I don't think that the common Yankee fan knew too much about him. And that was the clip right there that really stood out to me. I don't know if you can go back to it. I'm sure it'll come back around again. It was in Sarasota, and he threw this curveball, breaking ball that the Baltimore hitter almost fell and was totally off balance. And we were sitting in the press box kind of above where the scouts were. And you look down and they're just feverishly writing in their notepads. You mix the off-speed pitch in with the fact that he can touch triple digits. There it is right there.
Yeah, let's go back and look at that again. Oh, yeah, that's a knee buckler there.
Yeah, but he was doing that in live sessions. And, you would see clips of maybe not that kind of reaction, but just the electricity and the fact that his stuff is so dynamic. He was giving some of the Yankees big guys some trouble in live sessions at Steinbrenner early on before the games actually began. So it was in the first couple of outings that he really solidified himself as a contender for one of those spots. And when you talk about the Yankees pitching department, they've been able to just churn out these under the radar arms that then find their way onto the big league staff. And that was Lucas Litke a couple years ago. Last year, Ian Hamilton, who's now an important piece towards the back of the pen. So the question with Burdi is, can he stay healthy? Because he hasn't been able to do that in his career. And can he withstand more than a couple of outings at a time at the big league level? I don't think that there are any questions about, can he get outs? Can he get strikeouts? And can he have the stuff that you've been seeing now here for a couple seconds, have that kind of impact on hitters and do well out of the pen? It's just, how is he going to bounce back when he's pitched a couple times in a week and is going to pitch again next week? Because he really hasn't been able to do that in his career to this point. So, I haven't had a chance to meet him in the clubhouse yet. Those are the kind of guys that you root for, though, because of what he's been through. And again, there has been a track record with the Yankees of these type of stories coming to fruition in the Yankees bullpen. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's able to make the opening day roster. I think that Dennis Santana is another name to keep an eye on, because I've heard that he has some great stuff, and he's been pitching well in spring training so far to this point too. Great personality. We talked to him in Dunedin, and he has this new cutter that he learned from Frankie Montas, which maybe doesn't necessarily think like the best thing.
Sounds great.
Right. But that pitch has been working for him, and it's a go-to this spring. So something he's going to be using early on this year.
All right. Well, we got news today that the big man is headed back on Wednesday of next week. Aaron Judge. It's not the first time that we've heard that he's coming back. Do you think he's got enough time to get ready? I mean, coming back Wednesday, that's basically a week of games until opening day. He's going to have to get a lot of at-bats during those times. You see him maybe taking side live at-bats and not playing as many innings. I mean, I'm a little bit worried at this point that it's taken too long for him to get back in the lineup.
I think it's fair to be worried. Look, we'll talk about it this way from what he's told us. And he said that all he needs is 30 at-bats in order to be ready for opening day. And so if I'm not mistaken, he has 14 already. And you can get a lot of these at-bats on the backfields as well. So if he is actually able to go out there on Wednesday and have, maybe 3 or 4 in-game appearances where he doesn't have to play all 9 innings, he can get his work in, get his timing back after not playing in a game for over a week here. Aaron Judge knows his body. He knows what he needs to do to get ready every spring. And if he's telling us that he's going to be ready, I think we have to take his word for it. The question is, will this injury, complication, issue, whatever you want to call it, the sore core, the fact that he had to go for an MRI in his abdomen area, and the fact that he had an oblique injury in the past that's all in the same region, is this going to be something to keep an eye on in addition to the toe? That's something that he still needs to have maintenance on this season too. And you want him to be the everyday center fielder. That's going to take a toll on your body if you're out there every single day. So look, I think he's going to get his DH days throughout the week. That's what Trent Grisham is for, an elite center fielder that can fill in out there. And so long as he's healthy to go every single day, then he's a full go. You put him in the lineup and he's an MVP. He's got 62 homers a couple years ago. He knows what he needs to do to get to that point. The red flag for me is the fact that this is a concern this close to opening day, when originally the Yankees said that he was beat up because of a mid-spring workload, and the workload's only going to get tougher. This is a marathon, and he's barely out of the gates here. So that's something to keep an eye on.
You said the sore core. We had the core 4, which was the dynasty team. Sore core feels like the last few years that we've had so many injuries. That needs to be that's the title of your book about the last few years. Sore core. Last question while I have you for a couple minutes. How did Jason Dominguez look? I saw you take some video this morning of him and Soto hanging out. That warmed my cockles. I feel really good about those guys pushing each other. But how'd he look? He's on the mend, right?
He looks good. Slowly increasing the throwing program. I walked by the cage. I think it was today. It might have been the other day. They all kind of blend together. And he was in there taking swings right-handed. At this point, he's taking swings from both sides of the plate. And look, it's going to be a slow process. You got to be patient here, but everything is going well so far. His locker at Steinbrenner is very close to Soto's, as well as Trent Grisham and Verdugo and some of the other outfielders. So he's been there picking the brains of the big leaguers, and he's going to be back at some point. And I think that at that point, we'll have to discuss what exactly is going to happen with the playing time picture, because it's going to certainly change the way the Yankees will deploy their outfield on a day-to-day. But yeah, I mean, this is valuable time for him, right? Because he only has 8 games of MLB experience under his belt. And he has this injury that's going to take a toll on him mentally, and it's a grind physically to get back. So look, he seems to always be in good spirits when he's in the clubhouse around us, has been getting his work in, and an early summer return is all you can hope for as a Yankee fan at this point.
Max Goodman, I appreciate it, man. Good luck, and we'll have you on again here in a few weeks once the season gets going and we got some storylines beginning to unfold, and hopefully the Yankees will get off to a hot start, because we don't want to be ranting and raving. So appreciate you taking the time, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.